Starting off on 34th Street, we'll talk about those 7th Avenue skaters, the New York Rangers, as tonight they came back from the NHL pause for the first time. They're currently trailing the Florida Panthers by a score of 3-2. But so far this year for the Rangers, pretty good. New coach in Gerard Gallant heading into the year. Not much expected of them. I mentioned the word expectation at the beginning of our show, and I'll do so again here because I think it's important. The Rangers were not expected to be as good as they are by any stretch of the imagination. You had good talent heading into the season. Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, names of this caliber that you looked at and you went, okay, these guys can play. They're going to have an interesting time forming a chemistry, but they weren't necessarily a group that put fear into your hearts the same way that the Tampa Bay Lightning do. The Lightning have about 6 or 7 guys that you look at and you go, how are they on the second or third line? They're not even starting. Plus, a team like the Lightning has a goalie in Andrei Vasilevsky that is untouchable year in and year out, and come playoff time, you can't get anything by him. The Rangers weren't viewed in that light. They were seen as I said, the little engine that could. You might make the playoffs, you might make a push, but you're not scaring us. Coming into the year, they really turned the table. Won some really good games early and really challenged teams that maybe they shouldn't have. Key example for me was that game against Vegas. They lost the game in a shootout by a score of 3-2, but that second period, the line of Kreider, Zibanejad, and Capo Caco, very young talent there, along with Alexis Lafreniere, came in at around the same time at that number 1 slot, really put up a fight against Vegas in that second period. I thought it was indicative of the type of team that the Rangers are and the type of unit that Gallant wants to form. Because last year, under David Quinn, you had a situation where it was a little bit softer of a unit. You weren't focused on the forecheck, you were focused on scoring. This year, you get guys like Ryan Reeves, and you add it to what you had in Kreider, Zibanejad, and Kako, and you have something that's really special. I've been floored with how the Rangers have played this year. Right now, they're third in the Metro, hanging on with teams like Washington and Carolina. I think they're going to be a book it type of situation for the Stanley Cup playoffs. How far they go is something we can talk about, but just what are your thoughts off the bat about how the Rangers have been so far?
The Rangers, they hit the nail right on the head with the 2 words that we brought up before earlier in the show. Expectations and potential. This team is extremely young, and they're showing the potential that they have for not only this season, but for the years to come. I mean, look at this young core that they have. This is no joke. They're exceeding the expectations for this season, and it just shows how dangerous they can be in the Eastern Conference, where they are the 5th seed right now in the Eastern Conference, in the year that they weren't supposed to even sniff that. So, Chris Kreider doing what he does. He leads the team with 18 goals. Artemi Panarin, 33 points leading the team, and Adam Fox, 26 assists. It's very good, I have to say. The Rangers have been a lot of fun to watch. I was actually at that Vegas game, and it was even though they lost, they played well and they played fun. It was a fun hockey game to watch. This team has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see what they do moving forward.
I'm at the point with this team where I'm amazed with how they've been playing, but now I'm raising the bar a little bit. They've handled lower grade teams like Arizona, but they've really struggled to close out games against teams like Colorado and Vegas, as we've been talking about. That's something that you can tangibly improve upon as the season continues. And I'd like to add, for a lot of this season recently, in recent history, they've been without their star goaltender, Igor Shesterkin, which I mentioned Andrei Vasilevsky earlier to make this point now. Igor Shesterkin is making the case to win the Vezina this year. He was not even in my top 10 choices to win the Vezina this year. I mean, the guy's playing out of his mind when he's on the ice. 9.937 save percentage, 13-3-2 record. And not to mention, now he's scared the other goaltender, Alexander Georgiev, who, when Shesterkin was out, he stepped up his game. Because when Shesterkin was there, he was carrying the team and winning games that maybe they shouldn't have won at times. I remember I had seen a game where they played Columbus, who is, kind of a fringe team. They're about what the Rangers were supposed to be. Shesterkin goes out there, gets them a shutout. They win a game that maybe they shouldn't have won. They were a little weaker on the forecheck that night. Gallant wasn't as crisp in terms of his line selections, but that's the type of thing we're dealing with now. Is your expectations are getting higher every day. You mentioned Adam Fox, Norris winner, best defenseman in the NHL, arguably, with those assist numbers and with those point numbers. He's doing things that other defensemen just can't. I know a guy up in Boston, Charlie McAvoy, recently given a great extension. The knock on McAvoy is that he can't score. He'll do a lot of things for you defensively. He'll get you blocks. He'll get you all the things that a good, solid defenseman is supposed to, but he's not adding that other element on offense. He's not helping you in the neutral zone in the same way that Fox can. And for the Rangers, that is the best surprise they could have gotten, is now you're forming a team that has chemistry and a team that's really coming together. I'm greatly impressed with the Rangers. I know they're sitting at third in the Metro right now. I know there's only a point separation between them and that top spot. My big thing for them going forward would be to get consistent with the lines. Gerard Gallant, I've listened to him speak in post-game press conferences. He likes switching it up. I wonder if that's going to be a detriment for them going forward. The one line that he has finally seemed to want to stick with is Kreider, Zivanejad, Capo Caco. I have no idea why he likes this line in particular. I can't even understand why it works specifically, but for some reason it does work. And in that Vegas game, it was very prevalent. You had two guys on the outside that were aggressive on the forecheck, and you had a big guy in Chris Kreider really just pestering the Vegas goalie around the net constantly. And that's exactly what you need when you're trying to infuse youth with some veterans that add a physical presence. The Rangers were smart in some ways here. They didn't want to be what they were last year, where you were kind of the softer team that was going to hit some slap shots and get you some pretty points. No, now they're trying to be more than one thing, and I think it's working for them so far. And if anything, Gallant reinforces that. We're going to play a hard brand of hockey, and we're also going to have moments where, our offensive firepower shows up.